15 black celebrities who look exactly like people who died centuries ago. Chilling reincarnation evidence. What if a forgotten face from history looked exactly like a modern celebrity? Across old archives, colonial photographs, and century-old portraits, mysterious figures appear whose features strangely resemble today's biggest black stars. Coincidence? Or something deeper hidden in history? On Legends of Black Fame, we explore these haunting visual parallels between the past and the present stories of struggle, resilience, and legacy that refuse to disappear. But remember, resemblance does not mean real ancestry. Now the question is yours to answer. Could history be echoing through these faces? Watch to the end, decide for yourself, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Legends of Black Fame for more hidden stories. Barack Obama. Barack Obama is remembered as one of the most influential figures in modern American political history. Elected in 2008 and serving 2 terms until 2017, he became the first African-American president of the United States, representing a moment of profound transformation in the nation's political narrative. Known for his calm demeanor, powerful speeches, and ability to inspire global audiences, Obama often symbolized the idea that history can shift in unexpected ways. Yet an unusual comparison occasionally appears in historical discussions. Some observers have pointed out a resemblance between Obama's facial structure and statues of Akhenaten, the controversial ruler of Egypt's 18th dynasty, who governed roughly 3,300 years ago, around 1353 to 1336 BCE. Akhenaten dramatically altered Egypt's religious system by promoting the worship of a single solar deity, Aten. This radical departure from centuries of polytheistic tradition triggered fierce resistance from powerful priesthoods and elites who depended on the old order. After his death, later rulers attempted to erase his legacy. Monuments were dismantled, inscriptions destroyed, and his name removed from official records, a rare historical attempt at complete political erasure. Today, only fragments of statues and reliefs remain to tell the story of his dramatic reign. When some historians and enthusiasts place images of Akhenaten beside photographs of Obama, they occasionally note similarities in the elongated facial outline, narrow chin, and distinctive ear shape. Scholars emphasize that such parallels are coincidental and not evidence of any historical connection. Still, the comparison creates a fascinating symbolic reflection. One leader challenged ancient religious traditions in a powerful empire, while the other rose in a democratic system centuries later, navigating global expectations and political upheaval. Different worlds, different eras, but both names remain closely associated with moments of historic change. Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy stands among the most influential entertainers in modern American comedy. Born in 1961 in Brooklyn, New York, Murphy rose to national prominence in the early 1980s through his groundbreaking performances on Saturday Night Live. His fearless stage presence, rapid-fire impressions, and sharp social commentary helped redefine stand-up comedy and reshaped how black performers were portrayed in mainstream film and television. Movies such as Beverly Hills Cop and Coming to America cemented his reputation as one of Hollywood's most bankable stars. Stories occasionally circulate online about a striking photograph discovered in Brooklyn, an old tintype portrait dating from the late 19th century. Tintype photography was widely used in the United States between the 1860s and 1890s, often capturing everyday people who never appeared in official records. In the widely shared image, the unknown gentleman wears a tailored coat and bow tie, typical of performers from the era of vaudeville. Observers have pointed out similarities between the man's facial outline and Murphy's features, particularly the pronounced brow line and confident expression. During that same period, black comedians often used humor on stage to challenge the harsh racial restrictions of the time, including laws associated with the Jim Crow laws. Many performers traveled city to city entertaining audiences while subtly criticizing injustice through satire. Historians stress that there is no genealogical evidence linking Murphy to any specific performer from that era. Still, the comparison highlights an interesting cultural continuity. Long before Hollywood recognized black comedic talent, early entertainers used laughter as a form of resistance. Decades later, Murphy carried that tradition onto global screens, proving that humor can remain a powerful voice against inequality. Queen Latifah has built a remarkable career spanning music, film, and television, becoming one of the most respected figures in American entertainment. Born Donna Elaine Owens in 1970 in Newark, New Jersey, she first gained recognition in the late 1980s as a pioneering voice in hip-hop. Her early album, All Hail the Queen, introduced audiences to a powerful message of self-respect, dignity, and independence. At a time when female voices were still rare in rap, Latifah promoted confidence, equality, and respect for women, helping redefine the possibilities for black female artists in popular culture. Over time, her influence expanded beyond music. She earned critical acclaim in cinema, including an Academy Award nomination for her role in Chicago, while also becoming a successful television producer and host. Through these achievements, Latifah emerged as a cultural leader who consistently emphasized pride in heritage and community storytelling. Because of these qualities, many writers have drawn parallels between Latifah and the celebrated author and anthropologist Zora Neale Hurston. Hurston played a crucial role during the Harlem Renaissance, a period when black literature, art, and scholarship flourished. Her groundbreaking novel, Their Eyes Were Watching God, captured the voices, traditions, and inner lives of African American communities in the American South. Hurston passed away in 1960 at the age of 69, largely unrecognized by the broader literary world at that time. Decades later, her work was rediscovered and celebrated as a cornerstone of American literature. Observers sometimes note a visual resemblance between the two women in historic photographs, though scholars emphasize that no familial relationship exists. Even so, the symbolic connection is striking. One woman preserved cultural memory through research and storytelling, while the other amplified modern voices through performance and media, both strengthening the enduring spirit of black womanhood. Lawrence Fishburne. Lawrence Fishburne has long been recognized for commanding performances, a resonant baritone voice, and a screen presence that carries both authority and depth. Born in 1961 in Augusta, Georgia, and raised in New York City, Fishburne began acting at a young age before gaining international recognition through films such as Boys in the Hood and the groundbreaking science fiction classic The Matrix. Over decades, his roles have often centered on wisdom, strength, and moral conviction, qualities that make him one of the most respected performers of his generation. Discussions about historical parallels sometimes bring up the story of Jordan Anderson, a formerly enslaved man who gained attention after the American Civil War. In 1865, Anderson received a message from his previous enslaver inviting him to return to the plantation in Tennessee. Instead of accepting, Anderson dictated a remarkable reply now famous as one of the most powerful letters of the Reconstruction era. With sharp wit and quiet dignity, he calculated the wages owed for 32 years of forced labor, asking whether payment would be guaranteed before considering the offer. Anderson later settled with his family in Ohio, where he lived until 1907. His story might have faded entirely if not for preserved documents and photographs from the 19th century. In some circulated images, observers have noted facial similarities between Anderson and Fishburne, though historians confirm that no genealogical link connects the two individuals. The comparison remains symbolic rather than factual. Anderson used words to assert dignity during a turbulent chapter of American history. More than a century later, Fishburne has brought many historical voices to life through film, theater, and narration, helping modern audiences reflect on courage, justice, and the enduring struggle for equality. Will Smith is widely regarded as one of the most recognizable performers of the past 3 decades. Born in 1968 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Smith first became famous through music before transitioning into television and blockbuster cinema. His career expanded rapidly with films such as Independence Day and Men in Black, where his energetic charisma and emotional versatility attracted global audiences. Over time, he developed a reputation for portraying characters who confront hardship while striving for dignity and hope. One historical figure often mentioned in discussions about visual resemblance is Gordon. Gordon was an enslaved man who fled a plantation in Louisiana during the era of the American Civil War. After escaping, he reached Union military lines in 1863, where photographers captured the now famous image of his scarred back. The photograph, widely circulated by abolitionists, became powerful evidence of the brutality inflicted under slavery and influenced public opinion during the war. Following his escape, Gordon reportedly enlisted in the Union Army, joining thousands of formerly enslaved men who fought for the end of slavery and the preservation of the United States. Historical documentation about his later life remains limited, and many details about his final years remain uncertain. More than a century later, Smith portrayed a character inspired by Gordon's story in Emancipation. To prepare for the role, he studied historical accounts, describing the physical endurance and determination required to survive such an escape. Although some observers have pointed out similarities in facial structure between photographs of Gordon and Smith, historians emphasize that no documented family connection exists. Still, the symbolic link is powerful. One man endured unimaginable suffering while pursuing freedom, and another helped bring that struggle to contemporary audiences through cinema. Jay-Z. Jay-Z stands among the most influential figures in modern hip-hop. Born Sean Corey Carter in 1969 in Brooklyn, New York, he rose from the Marcy House's housing projects to become not only a globally recognized recording artist, but also a powerful business leader. His debut album, Reasonable Doubt, introduced listeners to vivid storytelling about ambition, survival, and the realities of urban life. Over the decades, Jay-Z transformed that success into a broader empire that includes music labels, fashion ventures, and major investments in sports and technology. From time to time, online discussions highlight a curious historical photograph taken in 1939 in Harlem, one of New York City's most culturally significant neighborhoods during the early 20th century. The image reportedly shows an unidentified man leaning against a wall on a city street. He wears a flat cap and tailored coat, typical of working-class style during the late years of the Great Depression. Observers have pointed out similarities between the man's facial features and Jay-Z's appearance, particularly the confident expression and distinctive profile. At the time the photograph was taken, Harlem was experiencing a period of both hardship and creativity. Despite widespread poverty, the neighborhood remained a center of Black cultural life, continuing the legacy of the earlier Harlem Renaissance. Many residents navigated difficult economic conditions while supporting community businesses, nightlife venues, and artistic expression. Researchers emphasize that the identity of the man in the photograph has never been confirmed, and no genealogical connection to Jay-Z has ever been documented. Nevertheless, the comparison invites reflection. Decades ago, anonymous individuals in Harlem helped sustain neighborhood resilience during economic turmoil. Generations later, Jay-Z emerged from nearby Brooklyn, channeling similar determination into music and entrepreneurship that reshaped the global landscape of hip-hop culture. Keith David has built a remarkable reputation across film, television, and narration through a voice instantly recognizable for its depth and authority. Born in 1956 in Harlem, New York, he trained at the prestigious Juilliard School before launching a long career that would span decades. His performances in films such as Platoon and The Thing demonstrated a rare ability to combine quiet intensity with commanding presence. Beyond acting, David's narration work has shaped documentaries and historical programs that explore culture, identity, and heritage. Occasionally, a historical photograph from Central Africa has been circulated online in discussions about visual resemblance. The image, reportedly taken in 1917 in the region once known as Ubangi Shari today, part of the Central African Republic, depicts a tall man standing firmly before the camera. During that era, the territory was under French colonial administration, and many local leaders resisted policies that forced villagers into difficult labor conditions. Archival notes connected to similar photographs from the period describe community figures who spoke against exploitation and attempted to defend local autonomy. Viewers who compare the historic portrait with images of David sometimes notice similarities in bone structure, particularly the pronounced cheek line and composed gaze. However, historians and genealogists emphasize that no documented family relationship links the actor to the unidentified individual in the colonial-era photograph. The identity and ultimate fate of many such local leaders remain unclear due to incomplete records from that time. Even without a factual connection, the comparison highlights an interesting parallel of symbolism. A century ago, countless African figures stood against outside domination to protect their communities. Today, Keith David continues to bring powerful stories of strength, resilience, and heritage to audiences worldwide through film, television, and narration. Usher. Usher has spent decades shaping modern rhythm and blues with a blend of vocal precision, athletic choreography, and stage charisma. Born Usher Raymond IV in 1978 in Dallas, Texas, and raised in Atlanta, he rose to fame during the late 1990s as one of the defining voices of contemporary R&B. His breakthrough album, My Way, introduced a confident young performer, but it was the massive success of Confessions, which sold over 10 million copies in the United States alone, that cemented his position as a global superstar. Known for emotional delivery and precise dance routines, Usher helped influence a generation of performers who followed. Occasionally, discussions about historical photographs from East Africa mention a portrait taken around 1920 in Eritrea during the period when the region was under control of the Italy as part of its colonial expansion. Archival collections from the era include images of community figures who resisted foreign authority or tried to maintain stability within their villages as political control shifted. In one such photograph circulating online, an unidentified man stands with quiet confidence, wearing traditional clothing and facing the camera directly. Some viewers have remarked on visual similarities between that portrait and Usher's facial structure, particularly the alert eyes and strong expression. Historians stress that no verifiable documentation connects the two individuals, and the identity of the man in the photograph has never been firmly established. Still, the comparison invites reflection about leadership expressed in different ways across time. Early 20th century figures in East Africa often served as guardians of their communities during periods of upheaval. More than 100 years later, Usher commands international stages, guiding audiences through music that blends emotion, resilience, and cultural pride, another form of influence reaching millions worldwide. Fetty Wap emerged in the mid-2000s as one of hip-hop's most distinctive voices, known for melodic flows and an unmistakable vocal tone. Born Willie Jr. Maxwell II in 1991 in Paterson, New Jersey, he gained international recognition with the breakout single Trap Queen. The track climbed to number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 and helped launch his debut album, Fetty Wap. Despite growing up in challenging circumstances, the rapper built a career defined by perseverance and personal authenticity. One of his most recognizable physical traits is the loss of vision in his left eye, a condition caused by congenital glaucoma during childhood. Occasionally, social media users share a historical photograph from around 1930 in the region of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. During that era, the territory was under the administration of Belgium, following decades of controversial colonial control linked to rubber extraction and resource exploitation. Archival collections from the period contain images of local men who were photographed during times of unrest, including individuals who resisted forced labor systems imposed by colonial authorities. In one widely circulated image, an unidentified man appears with a damaged eye and visible facial markings. Some viewers have commented that certain features such as the angular outline of the face and the intense expression remind them of Fetty Wap. Historians emphasize that there is no verified documentation identifying the man or connecting him to the rapper's ancestry. Even so, the comparison has sparked conversation about endurance across generations. Many Africans living under colonial rule endured violence while defending their communities and livelihoods. Nearly a century later, Fetty Wap's rise from hardship to global recognition represents a different kind of resilience expressed through music that reflects survival determination and the realities of modern street life. Danny Glover. Danny Glover is widely recognized for combining a long film career with decades of social advocacy. Born in 1946 in San Francisco, California, he rose to global fame through powerful screen performances, particularly the role of Roger Murtaugh in the action series beginning with Lethal Weapon. Over the years, he appeared in numerous productions, including The Color Purple, earning respect not only for dramatic depth, but also for the moral conviction he often brings to his characters. Beyond cinema, Glover has worked extensively with organizations promoting labor rights, anti-racism campaigns, and international humanitarian causes, becoming one of Hollywood's most visible voices for justice. Historical archives from Central Africa during the early 20th century occasionally surface in online discussions. One photograph dated around 1916 in the region of Banziri, then under the colonial control of France as part of the territory known as Ubangi Shari, depicts a man restrained by chains after being accused of joining resistance against forced rubber collection. At that time, colonial concession companies required villages to meet extraction quotas, a system that triggered numerous uprisings across the region. In the image, the unnamed figure faces the camera calmly, despite visible injuries. Some observers note facial similarities to Glover, such as prominent cheekbones, a steady gaze, and a marked forehead. However, historians emphasize that no reliable evidence links the photographed individual with the modern actor, and the person's identity remains undocumented. Although the comparison is speculative, it highlights a broader historical narrative. Many African laborers endured extreme punishment while resisting exploitative systems imposed by colonial administrations. More than a century later, Danny Glover's public life reflects a different arena of struggle, using storytelling, public speeches, and activism to support civil rights movements and amplify calls for dignity, equality, and historical awareness worldwide. Aldous Hodge has developed a reputation for portraying disciplined, determined figures whose presence suggests authority and intelligence. Born in 1986 in Jacksonville, North Carolina, and raised in New Jersey, he began performing as a child before gaining wider recognition through television and cinema. His career expanded significantly with roles in the series Leverage, and later the historical drama Hidden Figures. In 2022, he appeared as the heroic lead in Black Adam, portraying Hawkman with a commanding, regal demeanor. Critics often note his ability to project quiet strength through posture expression and deliberate speech. Archival photography from Central Africa during the early 20th century occasionally sparks online comparisons. One image reportedly taken around 1920 within the Kingdom of Bamum Kingdom, located in what is now Cameroon, shows a young royal figure standing beside attendants. At that time, the region had recently come under the administration of France after the defeat of Germany in World War I. Local rulers faced intense pressure as colonial authorities reorganized governance and restricted traditional autonomy. The portrait depicts a stern individual with an elongated face, pronounced cheek structure, and a composed gaze directed toward the camera. Some viewers have suggested the facial geometry resembles Aldous Hodge. Scholars, however, stress that no genealogical records or historical documentation connect the performer with the person in the photograph, whose identity and later life remain uncertain. Even without a factual relationship, the parallel sometimes inspires discussion about leadership expressed across eras. Early 20th century African rulers often navigated political upheaval while trying to protect their community's independence. In contemporary entertainment, Aldous Hodge frequently embodies characters who challenge injustice or defend principle using storytelling as a medium that echoes themes of resilience, dignity, and self-determination on a global stage. Wesley Snipes. Wesley Snipes became one of the most recognizable action performers of the late 20th century through roles that blended martial arts, skill, dramatic intensity, and supernatural themes. Born in 1962 in Orlando, Florida, and raised in the Bronx, he trained in stage performance as well as combat disciplines before entering film. His breakthrough period during the 1990s included projects such as New Jack City, but his most influential portrayal arrived with the comic-inspired production Blade. The movie, based on the character from Marvel Comics, earned more than $130 million worldwide and helped establish darker superhero cinema years before later franchises dominated the industry. Snipes' portrayal of a relentless vampire hunter combined athletic choreography with a mysterious aura that defined the trilogy. Occasionally, historical photographs circulating online from late 19th century East Africa inspire speculative comparisons. One image dated 1896 in Madagascar shows a ceremonial guardian associated with traditional spiritual practices during the turbulent period following the French conquest of Madagascar. During that time, local religious leaders and healers often served as protectors of cultural rituals, while communities resisted the rapid political transformation imposed by the expanding authority of France. In the photograph, the unidentified spiritual practitioner appears with a determined expression, prominent cheek structure, and a broad chin. Some observers have commented that these characteristics resemble Wesley Snipes' facial features. Researchers emphasize that no historical documentation supports any familial or ancestral connection, and the individual's identity has not been conclusively recorded in surviving archives. Despite the absence of factual ties, the comparison occasionally sparks symbolic interpretations. Traditional spiritual guardians once defended cultural identity through ceremony and belief. More than a century later, Snipes' iconic screen persona, particularly the relentless warrior portrayed in Blade, represents another narrative of confronting darkness, using cinematic storytelling to channel themes of vigilance, strength, and resilience for modern audiences. Meta World Peace. Born Ronald William Artest Jr. in 1979 in Queens, New York, became one of the most intense competitors of his era in professional basketball. Known for relentless defense, physical toughness, and emotional intensity, he built a long career in the National Basketball Association. Artest entered the league after college at St. John's University and was selected 16th overall in the 1999 NBA draft by the Chicago Bulls. His defensive excellence later earned him the 2004 NBA Defensive Player of the Year award while playing for the Indiana Pacers. In 2010, under the name Meta World Peace, he helped the Los Angeles Lakers capture the NBA championship, contributing crucial defense and scoring in the finals. Occasionally, historical discussions online reference photographs taken in Central Africa during the early 20th century. One image, reportedly dated 1911 in the region of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, shows a young nobleman connected to local resistance during the period when the territory was controlled by Belgium. At that time, international criticism had begun to expose brutal systems of forced rubber collection that had developed during the era of the Congo Free State period and continued under Belgian administration. In the photograph, the unidentified figure stands upright with a firm expression, squared facial outline, and steady gaze. Some viewers have commented that the structure of the face resembles Meta World Peace. Historians caution that no genealogical record connects the athlete with the person in the image, and the identity of the photographed individual remains uncertain. Even without factual linkage, the comparison highlights a shared theme of resilience. Early 20th century African leaders sometimes confronted oppressive systems to defend their communities. A century later, Meta World Peace has used athletics and later community initiatives, promoting mental health and youth programs to encourage strength, discipline, and social awareness beyond the basketball court. Mike Epps. Mike Epps built his reputation through a mixture of stand-up comedy film performances and sharp observational humor about everyday life. Born in 1970 in Indianapolis, Indiana, he began performing in comedy clubs during the 1990s before gaining wider attention after appearing on the television program Def Comedy Jam. His breakthrough in cinema arrived with the cult comedy Next Friday, where he played the loud, fast-talking character Day Day. Epps later appeared in productions such as The Hangover, expanding his audience, while continuing to perform live stand-up shows across the United States. Much of his humor focuses on social contradictions, family dynamics, and the experiences of urban communities. Online discussions sometimes draw attention to a historical photograph from mid-20th century Central Africa. The image, dated 1955 in Leopoldville, portrays a young political organizer who later became a central figure in the struggle for independence in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. That man was Patrice Lumumba, who would eventually serve as the nation's first prime minister in 1960 after the country gained independence from Belgium. His leadership during the turbulent early months of sovereignty made him internationally known, but he was later killed during the crisis surrounding the young state in 1961. In the photograph, Lumumba appears relaxed yet observant, with rounded facial contours, deep-set eyes, and pronounced eyebrows. Some viewers casually note a resemblance to Mike Epps. Scholars stress that no historical evidence indicates any familial relationship, and the comparison remains purely visual speculation. Even so, the contrast between the two public figures invites reflection on different forms of expression. Lumumba addressed injustice through political activism and speeches that called for national dignity. Decades later, Mike Epps often approaches social tensions through satire and storytelling, using humor as a tool to highlight contradictions and provoke thought among contemporary audiences. Alicia Keys is widely celebrated for blending soulful vocals with expressive piano performance, creating music that emphasizes emotion, vulnerability, and resilience. Born Alicia Ojello Cook in 1981 in New York City, she began classical piano training at the age of 7 and later attended the prestigious Professional Performing Arts School. Her international breakthrough arrived with the debut album Songs in a Minor, which sold more than 12 million copies worldwide and earned 5 awards at the Grammy Awards in 2002. Known for songs such as Fallen, she became one of the defining voices of modern soul and R&B, often performing while accompanying herself on the piano. Historical imagery from the 19th century occasionally sparks speculative comparisons on the internet. One daguerreotype reportedly dated 1869 in the state of Bahia, located in Brazil, depicts an African-descended woman who lived during the final decades of the country's slavery era. Brazil maintained the largest enslaved population in the Americas until the abolition law known as the Lei Áurea. Many surviving photographs from that period show unnamed individuals whose identities were never recorded in written archives. In the image, the woman appears with an elegant oval face, arched eyebrows, and reflective eyes directed toward the camera. Some observers have remarked that the facial harmony resembles Alicia Keys. Historians, however, emphasize that no genealogical documentation connects the musician to the woman portrayed, and the subject's personal history remains unknown. Even without a factual relationship, the comparison sometimes inspires reflection about cultural endurance. Enslaved women in 19th century Brazil preserved traditions through song rhythm and spirituality despite oppression. More than a century later, Alicia Keys channels deep emotion through melody and piano, transforming themes of struggle, hope, and liberation into music that resonates with audiences around the world. On legends of Black fame, history, and celebrity sometimes appear to echo across centuries. Old photographs from Africa, the Americas, or colonial archives occasionally reveal faces that strangely resemble modern stars, artists, athletes, or actors who now shape global culture. These similarities can spark curiosity about memory identity and the way stories travel through generations. Historians remind us there is usually no proven family connection, yet the parallels still invite reflection about resilience and legacy. Are these coincidences created by our imagination or subtle reminders that the struggles and strengths of the past continue to appear in new forms today? What do you think?